Sunset Boulevard is a major classic and a film which embodies many excellent qualities. The pathology of hack writers and what makes them tick. How many other films bothered to explore this and portray them somewhat sympathetically? A noir inspired venture that isn't afraid to explore the genre's relationship with weird fiction, with unusual, slightly surreal occurrences, and a rejection of the obnoxiously mundane. Still the best and most damning film ever made about the concept of celebrity and fame, what it does to people, how those industries treat humans, and how they promote tiers of status which are unearned and justified via exploiting the lack of luxury or leisure of the lower classes of the economic stratosphere. One of the oldest films which a younger audience could prospectively find themselves enjoying and admiring, along with Wilder's other film, The Apartment from 10 years after, Sunset Boulevard is an undeniable triumph, and quite frankly, one of like three Wilder films that really does it for me, since I'm a bit of cantankerous kid who doesn't appreciate American comedies for the most part. Apartment is less funny than emotional, from my perspective anyway. That third Wilder film I mentioned, I inferred, you can probably guess which one that is. Not a comedy and a stellar film, shouldn't be too hard to guess what that title is. I'll never forget looking at a list of nominated greatest directors. It featured an image of the director's face next to their films, and scrolling down I had to pause. Wait, that's the butler from Sunset Boulevard. So he was a major silent film director after all. Though his name wasn't Max von Meyerling, it was Erich von Stroheim. And man, what a cinematic oeuvre to eventually explore that would be. He wound up being the first director who I confidently named my favorite of the silent era, based upon my great love for Greed and The Wedding March. Right into the 50s, a film came along which blew most of American cinema over the past 2 decades out of the water, and for the first time, the sound era embarked upon a decade which matched the majesty and cinematic prowess of the 1920s. No one seriously considers the 30s a more impressive decade for the medium than the 20s, and the 40s had potential. But the war and its aftermath really punctured this opportunity. Though America in the early 40s hinted at the capacity later realized more so worldwide in the 50s. Listen to me, I almost sound like Gloria Swanson praising the Norma Desmond, praising the silent era over the sound films which came out up to and possibly including the year 1950 itself, but who needs contrived theatrical banality, those compact scaffolded swashbucklers of those stiff war films of the later 40s, compared with the sorcery of Chaplin, Keaton, or Lloyd, or Laurel, the overpowering humanism or horror of Murnau, or the aggressive existentialism of Victor Sjöström, Lang's fantastical undertakings, the aforementioned Stroheim's assertively painterly compositions, dwarfing American autorial creativity until the development of Ford's abilities, the arrival of Alfred Hitchcock, and or the ascendancy, however brief in a commercial respect, of Orson Welles. A stellar accomplishment. Few film fans are lost on the appeal of this mighty classic, Sunset Boulevard. 1001 Movies had to say, to beef out this video's runtime, unemployed screenwriter Joe Gillis, William Holden, floating dead in a swimming pool, recounts his doomed personal and professional involvement with megalomaniac silent movie queen Norma Desmond, Gloria Swanson. A flapper vampire whose attempts to stay youthful into her 50s paradoxically make her seem 1,000 years old, Norma lives in a decaying mansion on Sunset Boulevard, holding a midnight funeral for her pet monkey. He must have been a very important chimp, muses Joe, scrawling an unproducible script and dreaming of an impossible comeback. I hate that word. It's a return. A salami. In attendance is a sinister butler, Erich von Stroheim, who used to be her favoured director and incidentally her first husband. Usually not a filmmaker given to ostentatious visuals, Wilder is encouraged by the scenario to create compositions that evoke the lair of the Phantom of the Opera and Charles Foster Kane's Xanadu, a huge close-up of white-gloved hands playing a wheezy pipe organ as the trapped gigolo flutters in the background. Wilder's acidic yet nostalgic triumphs through the film industry's haunted house is a picture that can be endlessly rewatched, even after its influence has seeped into the horror genre. Robert Aldrich's Whatever Happened to Baby Jane 1962, and spun off an Andrew Lloyd Webber stage adaptation, combining strange affection for has-been Norma and Never Was Joe with a somewhat sadistic use of such ravaged and frozen silent faces as Buster Keaton, H.B. Warner, and Anna Q. Nilsson. One of Sunset Boulevard's unstressed ironies is that although Norma can't get away with her insanity, no one leaves the star, the industry allows and indeed encourages everyone else to act like a monster. Cecil B. DeMille, playing himself, gently reminds Norma that the picture business has changed, but Wilder concludes his scene by having the camera note his polished riding boots and absurdly outdated on-set strut. Although they recognise their chances for one last blaze of glory, Swanson, who took the role after Mary Pickford turned it down, and von Stroheim, who is forced to watch an extract from Queen Kelly, an unfinished 1920s disaster he directed Swanson in, understood the cruelty of Wilder's vision in the way he made monsters of all of them. It's a hard and cynical film, which struggles with its doomed but sweet normal love affair. In the end, Norma is as terrified that Joe is writing a script, Untitled Love Story, with D-girl Nancy Olson, as she is that he will leave her for a younger rival. Swanson, I Am Big, It's the Pictures That Got Small, is vibrant in her madness, climaxing with a moment of unforgettable horror glamour as she vamps toward a newsreel cameraman during her arrest for murder and declares that she is ready for her close-up, even as Wilder pulls back to frame her in a long shot that emphasizes her isolation and insanity as the big carnival for celebrity murder scandal begins. This points the way to Wilder's Ace in the Hole 1951 and a culture of media-exploited crime that remains horribly alive more than half a century on.